Imagine trying to build a spaceship with sticks and stones. That's kind of what Stalin's 5-year plan was like. Except instead of a spaceship, it was an entire economy. The Soviet Union of the 1920s was struggling big time. Poverty, famine, and outdated farming methods made it the underdog of the global stage. Enter Joseph Stalin, a man with a vision and a pretty terrifying mustache. So who was Stalin? Think of him as the ultimate micromanager. By the late 1920s, he had kicked his rivals to the curb and was ready to reshape the Soviet Union. His main goal? To turn the USSR into an industrial beast. Fast. And he meant fast. He famously said, "We are 50 to 100 years behind the advanced countries. We must catch up in 10 years or else." Basically, it was industrialize or perish. The Soviet Union at the time was mostly farmers. Over 80% of the population worked the land. Stalin's plan? Turn those farmers into factory workers and make a whole lot of steel, coal, and machinery. Simple, right? Well, not so much. The first 5-year plan kicked off in 1928, and boy, were the goals ambitious. Stalin wanted to triple coal production, quadruple steel production, and basically build cities out of thin air. Ever heard of Magnitogorsk? It was a city built from scratch as part of his plan. Imagine SimCity, but with way more manual labor and way less fun. But there was a catch. To fund all this industrial magic, Stalin needed money, and where did he turn? Agriculture. He introduced collectivization, which sounds nice in theory, farmers pooling their resources to work together, but in practice, not so much. Here's where things get dark, and by dark, I mean really dark. Many farmers, especially the wealthier ones called kulaks, were like, "No thanks, Stalin," when asked to give up their land. Stalin's response? Forced them to do it anyway. Millions of people were uprooted, and what makes matters worse, the government took grain to fund industrial projects, leaving rural areas starving. This led to the Holodomor, a man-made famine in the Ukraine that claimed millions of lives. Meanwhile, in the cities, things weren't exactly a walk in the park. Workers were pushed to their limits, meeting crazy quotas under terrible conditions. But hey, there were posters everywhere telling them how great it all was. If you believe Soviet propaganda, the 5-year plan was the best thing since sliced bread. Posters showed happy workers, factories churning out goods, and Stalin's face everywhere. But the reality? A bit different. Yes, industrial output increased a lot. By the 1930s, the USSR was the second largest industrial power in the world. But let's not forget the cost. Famine, forced labor, and a society where everyone was scared to be labeled an enemy of the state. So what's the takeaway here? The 5-year plan did turn the Soviet Union into a global power. It helped them defeat Nazi Germany in World War II, but it also left a trail of human suffering and a legacy of fear. Stalin's 5-year plan was a wild experiment. It's a story of ambition, sacrifice, and well, a lot of propaganda. What do you think? Was it worth it? Let us know down in the comments. And see you next time.